So I just saw a post about how children in America are not on reading level. They're not reading. They can't write more than two sentences, or they can barely write two sentences if they are told to write anything. They become frustrated um, because they can't read and they can't write because the schools have just been passing them. Another part of the video talked about homeschoolers. And I talked about in a previous video about my children being a part of a robotics team and how a lot of the American, what people traditionally identify as American, which would be European Americans and Black Indigenous Americans, who they call African American or Black Americans. Like, we have been pushed out of the robotics competitions. Um, and, granted, we've been pushed out by Asian teams and Indian teams, which is all Asia. And they have some really good robots. I'm not discrediting them, but one thing that I did notice was that a lot of the teams that did very well are homeschooled children. These kids are homeschool kids. And so now it's beginning to come out that homeschool kids are like better educated than the kids that go to regular school, regular public schools. And it tracks. That's what this video was talking about. It tracks because I before my children were homeschooled, I volunteered in my daughter's, I think she was in fourth grade class, and they couldn't get anything accomplished. There were too many kids in the classroom. There was only one teacher, no assistants. They had one little boy who, from reports that I get home every day from my daughter, this one little boy was always the disruption in the class. When I got to the class to try and help the teacher out, I realized that, yes, that one little boy was a disruption. The teacher will teach maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then this one little boy starts disrupting the class. So then the teacher has to stop and go and tend to this little boy, which leaves the other 30 something children. And I'm exaggerating. The class was about maybe 25. It had about maybe 25 children in it. So it left all the other 20 something children in the classroom unattended to. And so I, as a parent, I could only really direct my child, but I would try to help out as I could, oh, don't do that, darling. Oh, this, that, or the other. But by the time the teacher got that one kid straight, and then she would come back to the board and she would teach for about another 5 or 10 minutes. And as soon as she got into that lesson real good, another kid is acting up. Or when she was over there tending to that kid, the other children became restless. So once she was able to calm him down, now she has to calm down 2 or 3 other kids over there that got bored during the 15, 20 minutes waiting for her to calm down this other kid. And so that was when I realized, like, I don't know how these children are learning. I don't know how. I had a friend who was a school teacher who, when she started, she did teach me that, and I think it's just for like little kids, because she I think she was at a daycare or like an elementary school, like the little ones, like kindergarten, pre-K. But it was mandated that if there were over, I think, 10 or 15 kids, there had to be 2 teachers present at all times, so that none of these kids fall beneath the cracks, fall through the cracks. None of them get hurt. None of them, wander off, or whatever. And I'm wondering, where is that for school now? If any teachers need that, it's the teachers that are in public school. who need at least two, nay, I say, three people, three adults in that room at all times with the children. Like, we really have to do something different with the with the public school system, and how it does not benefit our children at all. And so we are wondering, and you hear stories about colleges complaining that the kids that get admitted into these colleges, they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they don't know this, they don't know that. They're having to go back and do, like, little courses before they can get to actual college courses, college grade courses. It's a real thing. But yeah, the robotics kids, a lot of the kids on my daughter's team were upset, and I hear how the kids talk about them homeschool kids as if it's the homeschool kids' fault. You know what I'm saying? But, they talk about, oh, the homeschool kids, they get to do their work and then they just work on the robot all day. Of course they're going to win, and not every parent has the luxury of homeschooling their kids, or having, like, I know there are a lot of co-ops where I live, but they are so extremely religious based that I would not put my kids in those co-ops, where they want you to sign papers agreeing that you agree with the religious things that they agree with. And if you don't sign, then your child cannot be a part of that co-op. And so, the country has really gone down into, like, the whole like the whole country has been disadvantaged by racism and misogyny, and it's showing. It really is showing. And yeah, I have a fellow homeschool parent who was saying that her son, who is graduating this year, she's having to find scholarship money for him to go to the school that he wants to go to, and she's afraid that he might not be able to go because they don't have the finances available for it. But not only that, the school counselors aren't helping a lot of these kids get into college. They're not helping a lot of these kids do better for themselves. I have a close friend, and I'll be 50 this year. So I have a close friend when we were in high school, and she told her high school counselor that she wanted to go to a 4-year college or university, and the high school counselor was like, "No, you'll never survive that. Just go get a job." And so this is what these kids are being taught, especially if you are indigenous, or you consider yourself Black, indigenous, Solon, African American. If you have, Black skin in this country, except for the Black immigrants. I'm talking about Black kids who were born to parents who originated in this country. They definitely get closed out of the system for whatever reason, regardless of whether, our ancestors pretty much built this whole country and built, the electronic state of the world. If you look at the things that you use on a daily basis, those things were created by Black and indigenous Americans while we were under our oppression. And so, yeah, the school system, and I fear that it is done purposefully. I know here where I live, they are beginning to mandate that if you get SNAP benefits. I read an article saying that they changed the SNAP benefits. Like, if you get SNAP benefits in my state, they're no longer allowed to purchase, like, cookies and cakes and candies and all this other stuff. But then you see a clip coming out of the health secretary saying These kids aren't fit enough to be in the military. And so you got to kind of put two and two together and realize that this country is purposefully disenfranchising public school system. The public school system, they're purposefully breaking it down. They're purposefully dumbing down the minds of American children, and purposefully putting armed service offices all over where the poorest of the people live. And so that tells you, what's really going on. You just got to look at and read between the lines and see what's not being said, hear what's not being said, and then look and see what's being done. The canceling of SNAP being able to purchase food, which it's not a big, it's none of my business really what people buy with their SNAP benefits. But you could buy a bag of chips or something like that. I don't think it's the government's place to tell you. I guess as they feel we're giving you the money, but me as a taxpayer, I don't care. It's my money going towards these people. I don't care what they buy with their SNAP benefits. It's none of my business, but the government cares. But the government only cares in certain states. And what I find is that, the states where the government cares, whether you're using your SNAP benefits for candy and cookies and stuff like that, or you're feeding your kids cookies and stuff, those are the places where our military will probably come from. Those are the states where our military personnel will come from over the next couple of years. And that's why they are cutting out the ability for SNAP beneficiaries to purchase ice cream or a bag of cookies, or what they say is junk food. If people are going to want to buy something, they're going to find a way to buy it either way. But yeah, the school system in this country has been broken down to its very bare minimum. And at this point, I don't even know why you send your kids to school. Yeah, but the robotics teams and all the teams that were doing well, you could hear over the loudspeaker, this is a homeschool group. That is a homeschool group. This is a homeschool group. And I just remember, when homeschool was unthought of for most people. And people were talking about how homeschool children lacked, this, that, or the other. But it's the homeschool kids that's winning most of these competitions. And that's because they're getting quality education in these co-ops. A lot of them are part of co-ops, really good co-ops. I mean, I've seen some really good co-ops that focus on, different things. There are co-ops that focus on horticulture. There are co-ops that focus on, like electronics, co-ops that focus on robotics, And so if you can, get your kids out of these schools and find a co-op that can work with you. I think there are some online co-ops if you are a working parent. I can say for me, homeschooling my kids, it's been a difficult walk because I'm a working parent. And so it's hard to join a co-op that meets in the middle of the day for classes because I have to be at work. So I am responsible for my children's curriculums, and they're thriving. They're thriving like really well. When my kids were in school, in public school, both of my daughters were on IEP. They didn't even ask, can we, we're noticing that your daughter or your child is struggling in reading this, that, or the other. They just sent home letters saying, yeah, we're putting your kid in IEP, and you really didn't have a say so about it. And my kids, they struggled in, even with IEP, they struggled with reading. But the first year that I homeschooled them, we had just my reading practice and my reading schedule that I have for them. They picked up on it easy, easy, easy. And now they're on grade level, if not higher. And so think about homeschooling your kids. There are different ways that you can do it. Yeah, I hope this helps.